Um, oh, honey, they are coming after her ass.
She should be indicted.
Letitia James, pro-consumer push could spark legal shakedowns and boost greedy lawyers, businesses say. I want to play this clip here.
The message is simple. No matter how powerful you are, no matter how much money you think you may have, no one is above the law.
Are Tish James's words coming back to haunt her? Critics are calling it karma, others an act of revenge by the Trump administration, after New York's Attorney General was hit with a federal criminal referral for alleged mortgage fraud. Here's everything you need to know.
James appears to have falsified records in order to meet certain lending requirements and receive favorable loan terms.
On April 14th, the Federal Housing Finance Agency sent a referral letter to the Justice Department detailing alleged false statements made in filings by Letitia James to secure housing loans. It all goes back to August 2023, just weeks before James began her civil fraud trial against Donald Trump's private family business. In securing a loan for a home in Virginia, James is accused of claiming, through a representative, that the property would be her principal residence. In New York, a sitting AG is required by law to have their primary residence within the state. James is also accused of misrepresenting a 5-unit property in Brooklyn as a 4-unit to allegedly receive a better interest rate. Bizarrely, the referral also includes a claim that she filed papers that listed herself and her father as a married couple. Conservatives were quick to gloat about the bombshell claims, including Republican Congresswoman Elise Stefanik. James infamously said these words in 2023 as her office targeted the Trump Organization for dramatically overinflating the values of many of its properties, from golf courses to hotels to homes. For instance, Trump's gold-adorned triplex penthouse in Manhattan's Trump Tower was reported to be 30,000 square feet, when in reality, it's 11,000 square feet. This resulted in a 400% price jump from 2011 to 2015 to the tune of $327 million. The trial ended with a brutal $454 million judgment against the Trump family. Trump was barred from heading a New York company for 3 years, and the payment was ultimately reduced to $175 million by the New York Appeals Court. Just a few months later, Donald Trump would be elected president for the second time. Now, Trump loyalists and legal experts alike are piling on the latest news against Tish James. For Washington University law professor and Post columnist Jonathan Turley, the irony is crushing. For an attorney general who just prosecuted Trump for everything short of ripping a label off a mattress, the details in the referrals are particularly damning.
So,
I'd been predicting this for months. They were going to get her because she's the one with the liability, just like Big Mouth Fannie Willis down in Fulton County, Georgia.
right. And so now, right, it says New York business groups are blasting Attorney General Tish James for a pro-consumer push that they fear will be a legislative misfire, boosting greedy lawyers and unleashing legal shakedowns. James' Fair Business Practices Act looks to tighten up consumer protections to crack down on shady crimes like deed theft, junk fees, and hard to cancel subscriptions. But critics said it will open up small businesses to frivolous lawsuits and legal threats. The so-called Fair Act would be anything but fair to New York's business community, especially Main Street businesses.
You know what this is reflective of? In my experience, people like her have no grounding in the real world, and they get elected or appointed to positions, and they go crazy because the temptation to steal or embezzle or misappropriate or use the authority of their position for wrong or for agenda purposes is just too great for them to resist.
Mm-hmm. Right. And the thing is, these people are now trying to play victim, but it's like, honestly, Trump is not going as hard on them like they went on him. I don't know if it's because maybe they don't have as much dirt, or maybe he's just busy doing more important things, but keeping them on a short leash. What do you think how far the Trump administration, and his cabinet is going to go as far as prosecuting like Letitia James and Fannie and stuff like that.
He doesn't have to go very far because what she's been doing is so far out there that it just opens the door. It's like what you heard with Fannie Willis. She ran her mouth off, forgetting about the Fifth Amendment rights she had. And by the time she got through, everybody's going, wow, what's going on? And I wrote down, I told you, 4 pages of fine print, fine writing about all of the things that she was implicating herself with. Same thing with this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very bad when somebody does something along these lines because it destroys faith in the government. Now, I'll give you an example of what the press does. Now, what are we getting right now with the Trump administration? Him firing all of these federal employees, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, the truth of the matter is in his first 100 days, Ronald Reagan fired a lot more. So did Bill Clinton. And it turns out that for the first year, Ike Eisenhower fired a heck of a lot more. So, in other words, he's not even in first place when it comes to this. You would get Reagan, Eisenhower, you would get Clinton, and then you would get Trump. But the press is acting like this is absolutely unprecedented. He's not even in first place within my own lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
So, you say, okay, St. Ron the Reagan. Nobody paid attention to the fact that he far outseated the number of federal firings in the first 100 days in office. Trump is lagging way back there. Bill Clinton fired more people during his first term at the beginning. Eisenhower did. And then you get Trump.
Right. So it's nothing new.
Yeah, it's nothing new. It's just they hype it a lot. And people don't know because they're too busy paying attention to NBA, NFL, MLB,
Watching
CNN, all of the nonsense, and they want to deal with this, that, and the other little dramatic, licentious, salacious little production. So it is what it is, and it all goes to hell. And the bottom line is for 50 years, people have been acclimated to this. People who were alive 50 years ago have gotten inured to it. But you have people who were born when the process was at its height. So that's all they've heard all their lives is this stupidity and foolishness. And they think it's normal. It's not.
Well, this whole thing with her and Trump, see, she's had a vendetta against Trump for years. This wasn't just something, the last year or two. This started when he became president in 2016. And so now, the rabbit has the gun. Let me just read this because she ended up winning $454 million judgment by suing Trump and his family over allegations of faulty business practices. And she, for years, have been among several Democrat state attorney generals who consistently challenge Trump's policies. But now that he's in office, he's investigating her. Trump called James a totally corrupt politician and a wacky crook who should resign immediately. So, and I have to agree with him on that.
I applaud that.
Yeah.
So, now, you know what they are going to probably go to jail for?
You think they're going to go to jail?
Yeah, but I'll tell you what for. It's not this. It is Chapter 8, Section 1324 et seq. For giving aid, comfort, housing, secreting, avoiding apprehension, detention, and extradition of illegal aliens. It's been a crime for a half century, more than a half century, and they've been engaged in it. And the statute specifically says official status does not exempt you from the prosecution. And by the way, I tickled myself when I noted that somebody had referred what I had written about this to Grok, and it said Grok, the AI thing said I was absolutely right. and it noted that you could get potentially 10 years as a minimum for this.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So that's what's going to get them, this bunch that is pushing this housing of illegal aliens, this providing them with cards so that they can get food supplements, medical care, room and board, transportation, keeping them from being apprehended by ICE, interfering with ICE representatives, et cetera, et cetera. All of that's criminal. And if they agreed to it, it becomes conspiracy, which ramps up the degree of severity of the sentence. So it ought to be real fun and games watching it happen. And
so
it's so obvious that it's going to be not the Trump administration. It's going to be a bunch of grand juries that are going to put this stuff in place.
well, this is interesting. It says the investigation against James so far raises several red flags. Out of 50,000 to 60,000 prosecution the Justice Department brings each year, only a handful, a small fraction of a percentage of them are mortgage fraud cases.
Yeah, and you remember what happened. Reason that is George Soros bought off a lot of the people who were running for attorney general all around the country. He had his fingers in the pies of a lot of mortgage fraud situation, including One West Bank in California and in Maryland. He had a situation there, and people, governors' offices, people holding high political office and appointed positions, they were in on it. One West Bank got indicted by practically every county in California, and there was a total of more than 5,200 indictment counts against Mnuchin, who was the CEO also of Obama and Trump administration fame, Trump's administration for 1 year before he got fired. And what wound up happening is Kamala Harris, with his strong support after he had helped her become DA in San Francisco,
Mhm.
she became Attorney General for California, and she consolidated all 5,200 counts and had them dismissed. And what wound up happening is about 3 weeks after that, Soros sold the bank for quite a few $1 billion and made a big profit. And then they financed her run for U.S. Senate, where she was essentially unopposed
Mhm.
for the first time in I don't know how long in California. So
Well,
that was what went on all across the country. So these kind of things are happening, and the American public is inured to them. But what they are focused on is the type of stuff that back in the 1980s, tabloids like National Enquirer, Globe, and the Star came to prominence on, following the English tabloid model of dealing with sensationalistic nonsense. So what used to be on, I keep saying it again, and I'm saying it over, it's what used to be on the last column of the last page of the last section of a newspaper. The gossip column is now front page.
right. Well, I want to swing it back to that pro-consumer act, right, in the state of New York. It says the bill specifically authorized profit-motivated law firms to send letters demanding pre-suit settlements for damages and fees. That's a recipe for a cottage industry of legal shakedowns where small businesses are targeted not for wrongdoing, but because they lack the resources to fight back. That
Yeah, exactly.
the act targets companies engaged in artificial intelligence based schemes, online phishing scams, and data breaches. It also takes aim at student loan services that steer borrowers into more expensive repayment plans, unscrupulous car dealers, shady nursing homes that sue relatives of deceased residents for unpaid bills, and insurance companies that use long lists of in network doctors who turn out not to accept patient insurance.
It's a problem, but the solutions already exist in current law, but they're not dealt with, they're not enforced. And what happens is that what she's done generates a cottage industry of lawyers who can shake down potential defendants. That's what's happening in these sexual abuse cases.
Yes.
We talk about this.
In
If
New York State.
let's say one of your relatives was wrongfully killed by somebody, depending upon what state you live in, you may have 1 year statute of limitations to bring an action against the person that caused or persons that caused the wrongful death. Maybe it's 2, and in some states, very few, it's as much as 5 years. But then again, for political purposes, for agenda purposes, you get a 30-year, 50-year, 25-year statute of limitations or an extended, unlimited statute of limitations for a titty squeeze. So, I mean, think about it. What's more serious, a squeezed boob or somebody getting a bullet in the brain?
So someone says, well, not someone, but in this article, it says lawmakers should be focused on cutting costs and supporting small businesses, not making it easier for wealthy lawyers who have demonstrated no actual harm to sue them out of existence.
Yeah, in other words, see what happens is it's gotten so crazy now that the fees that people are talking about and that the legal system has got inured to are absolutely disgusting. I mean, the amount of work that's being put in is minuscule in comparison to the fees that are being charged. There is no way somebody should charge multi-million dollars for handling a felony case. It's not worth that. And the people that charge those high prices are paradoxically the least experienced lawyers, because with prices like that, you don't get to do it much. In other words, you may get into a court on something like that every now and then. But what happens, even if you are on a regular basis, because you take 6 weeks to do something that a competent series of trial lawyers on the prosecution and defense side can try in a few days or a week, what winds up happening is you bring in money, but you don't get the experience. You don't get the repeated experience of a doctor doing an intern thing or a residency thing in an emergency room. Your breadth of experience, hands-on with the law, is stunted and you don't know what you're doing. They have judges on the bench now who have had 3, 4, 5, or no trials that they participated in as a lawyer. You have some that are TV judges that weren't judges at all, and some that had never tried a case as a lawyer. And you've got people on the real estate benches who've never tried a case as a lawyer, prosecutor or defense lawyer, plaintiff's lawyer or defense lawyer. And it's a shame. They don't know what the hell they're doing.
So Business Council lobbyist Chelsea Lemon said Governor Kathy Hochul and lawmakers need to reject the bill if they are truly serious about addressing affordability. Now, during a press conference in March, Letitia James said the legislation was necessary while criticizing the Trump administration. Quote, at a time when the federal government is making life harder, we want to make life easier for New Yorkers.
She's not making it easier for New Yorkers. She's setting up a price and fee structure that keeps lawyers out of the reach of most ordinary people. See, the only folk that can afford lawyers right now, generally to do work that they used to do, are those who get an income boost because they have legal fees, because it reduces their tax base substantially. In other words, you need to have these expenses if you want to reduce your operating, if you want to increase your operating costs to boost your profitability. See, these are small operating costs, but they add up. Right. You have situations like here in Memphis. The Memphis Board of Education has a board attorney. It has other attorneys on his staff, but they hire this black silk stocking law firm, not black, but silk stocking law firm, and they pay them $500 to $3,500 an hour to do what they already are paying a full-time salary, a staff a salary to do. And the weird thing about it is the board attorney may have 19, 21 years of experience, He's on a salary, but they've got somebody 3 years, 4 years out of a law school getting paid $3,500 an hour and doing nothing but goofing the case up because they don't know. But you see, that's political patronage.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's calling this Fair Business Practice Act, saying that it will close loopholes that make it easier for New Yorkers to be scammed, and will allow my office to go after anyone who violates the law, and look forward to working with my partners in the state government to ensure as Washington retreats from protecting consumers, New York steps up to lead. But the reason why she's getting pushback because small businesses are saying, you know how you allow something, but then people take it for granted and use it over excessively. So if you have these wealthy lawyers, like any little thing, someone with power or more resources than you, legal firm can come after you for any little thing to shut you down because you're a small business. So it's like, okay, yes, I need to follow the law, but I'm a small business. So any little thing that you think that I'm doing wrong, this major law firm is going to come and crush me, and you are allowing them to do it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that happens. And then you have the advertising factor where you have rookies who have slick advertising campaigns called Mama and Dada or Uncle paid for it.
Right.
And they get a lot of cases and they don't know what's going on. And I know when I was on the state bench, you'd have a case. It would be a fairly straightforward case, and somebody would be able to afford one of these high profile law firms, and they would try to paper the thing to death. And after you've gone through it, you're going, this has nothing to do with a damn thing. And there are 300 some pages worth of filings. And you're looking at this, good gracious, what did they charge these people or this person?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's to no purpose because you've got another somebody that is a co-defendant on the case, and the public defender's office that already has most of these things on file because they've done it before. They pull out their forms, and the lawyer has been over there over and over and over and over again, and he files the pertinent stuff. So you're looking at somebody that got $1.5 million fee, and somebody that's doing the co-defendant as basically a freebie to the defendant. And the PD's office is providing a better defense than the high-paid lawyers are.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Listen, guys, everyone, please hit the like button. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up.